Restoring Men in History, the Boy Scouts. A name change is very significant. First of all, a name means a lot, and they are changing it, which we kind of predicted would happen over 5 years ago. And we're going to read a little bit out of the 1911 handbook, because that will show you the core values and virtues that the boy, and remember boy was in Scouts, the Boy Scouts were trying to teach you. What they wanted to teach boys, what their intention was, we will go over later. Let's first get to this part. Now, before we do this, know this: I was a Boy Scout, a leader in the Boy Scouts, working my way up in the ranks. And by the way, loved backpacking, loved camping, loved building the skills, loved earning those merit badges, that meritocracy I did well in. I loved it and loved being a leader. And we had a great scoutmasters that were tough and wanted the boy leaders to be the leaders. So they enabled us to lead. So at the camps, and I went to the summer camps where we got to lead a whole week of all the men. And we went to Philmont. I went to Philmont, which was a great experience, backpacking 55 miles, had to light a fire in the rain, find the wood that was already wet. That was for one badge, merit badge, that I earned while at Philmont, working your way up in the ranks. And it's a great meritocracy. It's a great way to learn leadership skills. They taught you to, and you learned and you read, right? So you studied, you learned, but you also took action, because we had a camping trip where you'd go out and we had the mountains close to us. So we would hit the mountains and get a whole weekend leading. And again, the Scoutmasters let us lead. I was patrol leader, assistant senior patrol leader twice, and other positions. So I was constantly leading. So it furthered my leadership skills. If you like this message, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification button. So I want to do compliments to the Boy Scouts. It was an enormous and great experience for me. Now, for boys that grow up with uninvolved fathers, or fathers that are gone a lot, or fathers that are absent all the way, it's tremendously important, I believe, to get away from your mom, to get away with just the Boy Scout masters and the other boys, to lead in that situation and to be removed from women. So, yes, even though they say that girls are not going to be in the same troop, we'll see how long that lasts before girls move into the boys' troop. Anyway, it's a disaster. Membership, by the way, is in decline. What happens when you dilute? There was also the lawsuit. We don't want to leave that out and be biased. But there's also the cultural Marxists who do what? Come in and they wish to what? Destroy the organization or take over the organization and then change its mission and adopt it to their own values. Why? Because what do many cultural Marxists do? They wish to what? Critical theory, destroy. Destroy or take over the institutions and destroy them from within. So these lawsuits by the Boy Scout, I think 82,000 boys sued. So that's a problem. That's an internal problem. Let's divide that from Marxism. That is an internal problem, a difficult one it would have seemed to fix. I know many great men that were trying to fight it. Guy out in Orange County, tremendous gentleman, gave a lot of time, money, and energy. So let's also compliment the men that stood for the Boy Scouts and stood up for them and put a lot of time and energy into it. Let's compliment those men, and let's compliment the past Boy Scouts and the millions of men that went through it, that it changed for the better. And of course, there were those boys that had a bad experience. But anyway, hatchets, axes, camping, hiking, backpacking, great experience. What boys need, right? What do we need? We need rugged. We need to be out in the woods. We need to be hiking, scraping ourselves up, hitting the deep, seeing snakes. And we did. We saw snakes on the trail, rattlers, everything. It was fantastic and outstanding. It was always exciting to see the animals, bears, whatever, hanging the bear bag, learning all that stuff. Great stuff. Carrying the pocket knife, cutting, whittling, whatever we're going to do, shooting the rifles, 308 rifles at one of the camps. Great experiences, all right? Shooting bow and arrow, all these different merit badges. So, you know, boys like to be boys. What else do you get to do? Take a hike, and then after the hike up in the mountains, get that campfire going. Boys love what? Fire, fireworks, campfires, and then we tell stories. That builds camaraderie. So Boy Scouts is great to be around with other boys. You introduce a girl into it, changes the whole dynamic. It's like introducing a man to a sorority. Can't happen, shouldn't happen, never should happen. Okay? Different. Just change it. You got the Girl Scouts, you got the Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts. Yeah, in Philmont, backpacking 55 miles. But at the camps, assigning the task, assigning the chores, getting things done, leading. Great example of leadership. And it's a meritocracy because you move up in rank, right? You go from scout to tenderfoot. to second class to first class. And when you get that first class, you see the guys are proud of that first class badge, right? That's a big step, first class. Then star, then life, and then on to eagle. So you get a meritocracy, you get to earn those ranks. So that's good for men to be earning it in a meritocracy, earning those merit badges, doing the tasks that you need to do by reading or by working at knots, first aid, learning those skills. What does a man need? He needs skills. So Boy Scouts gives a man the skills to live in the city or an outside of the city. Helping others is, of course, an outside and a city skill, right? You can help someone crossing the street, or you can help someone who is lost. And by the way, we had such leadership, we would do count on them. We didn't want to lose a guy. Like when I was assistant senior patrol leader or patrol leader, I didn't want to lose one of my guys hiking, because you'd go backpacking or hiking. So you do a countdown, count the guys, right? You learn responsibility and duty. You don't want to lose one of your guys out there. All right. So just a fantastic experience before we get started. And you're elected to your leadership position and you earn the rank. So it's the best of both worlds, right? You have to get along. You have to be firm. And you can see boys when they got up to star, very, very pleased, because star was rare, right? As you went up, rarer and rarer to get there. So who doesn't like boys being only boys organizations or men's clubs, and who doesn't like girls only in sororities? The usual suspect, the cultural Marxist, the progressive, the leftist. So they oppose it, and they will keep advancing, and they won't stop. And here's the discussion we had over 5 years ago in Orange County, in the gentleman's group in Orange County. We said, a couple of us, Dave and I, they will not stop, they will not retreat, they will continue to make a change. Others said, oh, if we only let girls in, it'll go away, the problem will go away, we'll appease them. You cannot appease the Marxist. Can't negotiate with them, unfortunately. That's not the way they work. They want to change your organization or destroy it. That's what they do. All right, membership seems to be in decline. I'm sure that's many reasons. Technology, boys staying in the rooms, but it's also the lawsuit, but it's also the dilution of what you're giving, right? And this will further, I believe, decline it, at least for boys, and for boys that are attracted to that, preparation for the Army or whatever they're trying to prepare for. I think it will not attract that kind of boy as much, right? And the kind of boy that really needs it as well, single mom boys and those kind of guys. So lawsuit, technology, clubs are going down. DEI, they sound woke now. They're talking about being inclusive. No, it was Boy Scouts, for boys to develop boys, just like sororities are to develop girls. They're not for boys. See? Right. So you're seeing the membership drop off, right? You can see it in churches too, right? When sometimes churches might take an increase when they go to that social left Marxism church, and that just frilly, fluffy kind of church that doesn't teach you much. But now those kinds of churches seem in many cases to be in decline, and the hardcore churches. So you want Boy Scouts to be hardcore. I haven't looked much at this Trail Life USA. Maybe that is the alternative for you single moms and for boys. I'm not sure, but it's still for boys. So I guess it's the better alternative. Sure it is. So you dilute what you stand for in the military or the Boy Scouts, and you change it, right? And probably if you're going to attract these kind of guys, you may not, I don't know what's going to happen with camping and everything else, but it'll probably change it. And talking about exclusion, it is a boys' organization, or was forever. So you had the Girl Scouts. So why would they do this? Well, cultural Marxists want to destroy sex, want to destroy women, want to destroy men. They want to destroy the gender. So that's why it's happening. That's why these sororities are under assault. That's why these are under assault. That's why men and women are under assault. That's why they're doing it. Destroy the institutions, or take them over and then destroy them. So again, you want to attract boys and develop them, be tougher, be more hardcore. Don't go the opposite direction. You can't compromise. It won't help. And it's in decline. Boy Scouts should be for Boy Scouts. So starting fires, hiking in the rain, backpacking in the rain, all that develops you from a boy into a man, right? And leading in those environments, the different climates, the different elements, right? And remember, it's different when you get away on the weekends, when you get away at camp and your parents aren't there or your mom's not there. You're with the boys, you're building camaraderie, and that's different. Okay, so let's go into the 1911 handbook and take a look at the original intent. And these are great principles. So Boy Scouts started out with noble intentions, and I want to read some of these and see what they say. And let's read it from them. So you got the first part. We don't like the name change. It's not good. And don't put girls in Boy Scouts. Let it remain Boy Scouts. I think it's pretty much done. Maybe people will go to Trial Life USA, which is kind of sad, but anyway. Boy Scouts of America is a corporation formed by a group of men who are anxious that the boys of America should come under the influence of this movement and be built up. So it's good to build up boys, right? We need boys for a strong nation. And all that goes to make what? Character and good citizenship. So, great noble intentions by the Boy Scouts when they started in 1911. What are they trying to build? Good citizenship, and we need good citizens, right? Fantastic, admirable goals. Turning boys into good citizens and into men makes a country stronger. Who's going to watch over the Constitution one day? These boys, right? So you want good citizens because the Constitution will not work without good citizens who are paying attention to what the politicians are doing. Look how far removed we are from the Constitution that was ratified in a bad way. And I mean it in a very bad way. Look how much power the federal government has today. So you need men that don't lack in character above the Constitution or watching the Constitution, restraining the federal government. Men who honor the Constitution. I think of how many politicians really honor and protect the Constitution today. So, going back to the handbook, Scout used to mean the one on watch for the rest. The one on watch for the rest. That's a good thing, watch for the rest. Watch over the Constitution, too. And don't you wish we had more people watching out for the Constitution, right, Matt? So, going on in the book, we have widened the word a little. We have made it fit the town as well as the wilderness and suited it to peacetime instead of war. We have made the Scout an expert in lifecraft as well as woodcraft. True, we did learn both. For he is trained in the things of the heart as well as head and hand. And watch as we go through here what their focus on. It's very good for today. These are good things for boys. Do you wish to have all-around well-developed muscles? Well, we were lifting early. Not those of a great athlete, but those of a sound body that will not fail you. Nothing wrong with being a great athlete either. Would you like to be an expert camper? Yes, absolutely. Loved camping, thumbs up. Who can always make himself comfortable out of doors, and a swimmer that fears no water. Scout Lifeguard was a great program, got that. Do you desire the knowledge to help the wounded quickly? It's a good thing to do. And to make yourself cool and self-reliant in emergency. If you experience emergencies, it might make you cooler, right? Remember one time at Philmont, one of the guys got bit by a rattlesnake, and it was up to Dave and me to go get the help. Bit by a rattlesnake. We ran a long way and got help. Here come the virtues. And you know, we talk about these a lot, these virtues, and we believe they're so important. Do you believe in loyalty, courage, and kindness? Well, those are our big ones here at Restoring Men in History. Loyalty, courage, and kindness. Are you kind to your friends? Are you kind to others? Are you loyal to your friends? Do you have courage to fight and stand up for what you believe in? Would you like to form habits that will surely make you a success in life? Well, we all want to be a success in life, and how do you define that? That's Ernest Thompson Seton, Chief Scout at the time, 1911. The aim of the Boy Scouts is to supplement the various existing educational agencies. Well, we really need that now, right? Because we have total Marxist indoctrination centers. And to promote the ability in boys to do things for themselves and others. You did really build a lot of skills. And building skills in first aid, so you can take care of yourself and others, is fantastic. And it's good to think about others. And Boy Scouts had that motto. You're thinking about others. How can you help others? How can we help others? This method is summed up in the term scoutcraft, and it is a combination of observation, deduction, and handiness, or the ability to do things. We had the ability to tie knots, do a lot of things. We learned a lot in Boy Scouts if you got all those merit badges, and I got a lot. So first aid, life-saving, we did both of those. Tracking, signaling, compass and map, by the way, cycling, nature study, okay, you get it. Chivalry, patriotism. What scouting means. In all ages, there have been scouts, the place of the scout being on the danger line of the army or at the outpost, protecting those of his company who confide in his care. That's good, right? The Army Scout was the soldier who was chosen out of all the army to go on the skirmish line. The pioneer who was out on the edge of the wilderness, guarding the men, women, and children in the stockade, was also a scout. Should he fall asleep or lose control of the faculties or fail on his watch, when the lives of men and women and children paid the forfeit, the scout lost what? His honor. The way for achievement in big things, and we go over this a lot, and this is in the 1911 handbook. The way for achievement in big things is the preparing of oneself for doing the big things by going into training and doing the little things well. So you need training, and you need to do the little things well. We talk about this all the time, doing the little things well. And what will happen when you do the little things well? You'll build confidence as men. then you can go on to larger things. A good scout must also be chivalrous. That is, he should be as manly as the knights or the pioneers of old. He should be unselfish. And in today's world especially, being unselfish would be a great asset and rare, right? So that's a great thing for a boy to learn early, that the world's not about him, that the world doesn't revolve around him, that you need to be unselfish and think of others and what they're going to come up with here soon. Do good deeds, right? To consider the Knights, so we've done a thing, our very second video was on the Knights Code. And now watch again what he's teaching. He should show courage, he must do his duty. And where else is the line of duty? It's in the Declaration, right? It is your right, it is your duty. Coming up 4th of July later. He should show benevolence and thrift, those are good things. He should be loyal to his country. He should be obedient to his parents and show respect to those who are superior. He should be very courteous to women, good thing, right? One of his obligations is to do a good turn. Watch this, how often? How often should it be? Every day to someone. Now that's a great principle if you can do it, right? And aspire to. One of his obligations is to do a good turn every day to someone. Imagine how that would affect your community, your neighborhood, if all the boys in it were doing a good turn every day to someone. Amazing, right? It'd be amazing. Getting outside of ourselves and thinking of others. That is a great principle to learn. How would the world be if we did that? He should be cheerful and seek self-improvement. How many guys do you see sullen today? A lot, right? We see a lot of robots walking around and dead people with no energy, right? All these things were characteristics of the old-time American Scouts and of the King Arthur Knights. Their honor was what? Sacred. They were courteous and polite to women and children, especially to the aged, protected the weak, and helped others to live better. Now, compare that to where you see these videos in New York and Chicago and the cities where you got guys going up to women from behind in a stealthy way, unannounced, knocking them out and dragging them. Terrible. Older people doing it too. Older people and girls, the weak, right? You see these videos all the time. My friend sends it to me. Scotty sends me all these videos of these people. All right. You take a look at the Knights Code to protect the weak was in there. They taught themselves to be strong so as to be able to protect their country against enemies. They kept themselves strong and healthy so they might be prepared to do all these things at a moment's notice and to do them what? Well. So the Boy Scout today must be chivalrous, manly, and gentlemanly. Those are good principles to learn. This was the 1911 handbook. When he gets up in the morning, he may tie a knot in his necktie and leave the necktie outside until his vest till he's done a good turn. Another way to remind himself is to wear his scout badge reversed until he's done a good turn. So very much in 1911 about that good turn, and we heard about it too. Helping an old lady across the street, it gives an example. So it's a different time. Again, these lessons make you what? Reflect on others, not yourself. How can you help others? How can you do a good deed for others, not yourself? Getting out of yourself. That is a great lesson for today. And of course, we believe in the next one, we're restoring men and what? History. So we think history is important. In addition to these, the scout should be a lover of his country. He should know his country, how many states there are on it, what are its natural resources, scope, and boundaries. He ought to know something of its history, and we believe that. We need to know our history. Its early settlers, and of the great deeds that won his land. How they settled along the banks of the James River, how Philadelphia, New York, and other great cities were founded, how the Pilgrims came in and established New England and laid the foundation, how the Scouts of the Middle West saved all that great section, how he ought to know how Texas became part of the United States, and how our national heroes, we do need to know heroes, stretched out their hands. So those are good things to know. We believe in history. He ought to know the history of the important wars. He ought to know about our Army and Navy flags and rank of our officers. So he ought to know the kind of government he lives under, absolutely, in the separation of powers and the what? U.S. Constitution, because we love the Constitution. He ought to know what is expected of him as a citizen. How many boys consider what's expected of them as a citizen? How many men consider that today? And what to do to help the people among whom he lives. See, help, help, help. Notice the theme? Communities used to help themselves and not say, look to the federal government. I mean, this is a big transformation, right? You have a great community and you have good citizens. You're not looking up to the federal government, who has spent $37 trillion and increasing it. Who doesn't protect the border, and we could go into that. Let's stop. Let's keep going. One of these is obedience. There are other things which a scout ought to know and which should be characteristic of him if he's going to be the kind of scout with which the boys of Scouts of America stand. One of these is obedience. To a good scout, a boy must learn to obey the leaders of his patrol leader, scoutmaster, and scout commissioner. He must learn to obey before he's able to command. He should learn discipline and control himself so that he would have no thought but to obey the orders of his officers. Another virtue of a scout is that of courtesy. A Boy Scout ought to have a command of polite language. Well, that's a good one for today too, right? Polite language. Got to show that he's a true gentleman by doing little things for others. How many do that? Especially today, in the age of social media, where people can just attack people randomly with no consequences, right? Loyalty is also a scout virtue. A scout ought to be loyal to all to whom he has obligations. He ought to stand up courageously for the truth, for his friends. For this reason, and this is a good lesson to learn, he should never look down upon anyone who may be poorer than himself. And that's a great lesson. We shouldn't. Or anyone richer than himself. Envy anyone richer than himself. Scout's self-respect will cause him to value his own standing and make him sympathetic toward others who may be, on one hand, worse off, or on the other hand, better off as far as wealth is concerned. That's a good principle to know. The most important scout honor, and we talk about a lot of this, we've done a video on it, do what you say. 4 words, do what you say. The most important scout virtue is that of honor. Indeed, this is the basis of all scout virtues and is closely allied to that of self-respect. When a scout promises to do a thing on his honor, he is bound to do it. So, do what you say, right? The honor of a scout will not permit anything but the highest and best in the manliness. The honor of the scout is a sacred thing and cannot be lightly set aside or trampled on. Faithfulness to duty is another one of the scout virtues. When it is the scout's duty to do something, he dare not shirk it. A scout is faithful to his own interest and to the interest of others, right? Again, that focus on the others, ladies and gentlemen. Good for boys to learn. He's true to his country and his God. Another scout virtue is cheerfulness, and this is good. How many unhappy? I see unhappy people all the time. There may be a reason. They may be going through a hard time, so that's fine. You must always be bright and smiling. You must always see a donut, not the hole. That's a good line. All right. It's the scout's duty to be a sunshine maker in the world. And the final chief test of the scout is the doing of a good turn to somebody every day. The final and chief test, the chief test of a scout, is the doing of a good turn to somebody every day. 1911. Think about this. Thinking about others, thinking about others, thinking about others. Imagine if we did that today. This is the proof of the scout. It is practical religion, and a boy honors God best when he helps others most. A boy may wear the scout uniforms made, all the badges ever manufactured, know all the woodcraft, know the campcraft, know the scoutcraft, and other activities, and yet never be a real Boy Scout. To be a real Boy Scout means the doing of a good turn every day with the proper motive. The boy has a right to be classed with the great scouts that have been of such service to their country. Service. Okay? And there are 12 great virtues: trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, reverent, right? So those are the 12 points of the Scout Law. We're not going to take the time, but imagine if boys just took those 12 things and did them. The Scout motto of the Boy Scouts is what? What is the Boy Scout motto? We said this all the time, and we were: be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared. And the badge of the Boy Scouts is a copyrighted design with this motto, be prepared, on a scroll on its base. The motto, be prepared, means that the scout is always in a state of readiness in mind and body to do his duty. See how that's the words? Duty, help others, be prepared. These are good lessons for boys to learn, right? To be prepared in mind by having disciplined himself to be obedient, and also by having thought out beforehand any accident or situation that may occur. So have you thought out the problems and situations that you may encounter, and do you have a plan for them? To be prepared in body by making himself strong and active, and to be able to do the right thing at the right moment and then do it. Trefoil badge of the Scouts is now used with slight local variations, and it is as the mark of brotherhood for good citizenship and friendliness. Do we have enough friendliness today? We talk a lot about friendliness, citizenship. These are great virtues and values that are being taught by this 1911 handbook. Now here it is. Before he becomes a scout, what must he promise? Do you remember that? On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout Law. Number 2 is to help other people at all times. See that focus? 3, to keep myself physically strong and mentally awake and morally straight. Got to keep yourself strong to help others. All right, so there's always been laws regulating the conduct and directing the activities of men. We've seen these unwritten laws in Japan. The Japanese have the Bushido, the laws of the old samurai orders during the Middle Ages, the chivalry and the rules of the Knights of King Arthur, the Knights Templar, the Crusaders. So you have these things. The following laws, which relate to the Boy Scouts, are the latest and most up to date. So you just have a scout is trustworthy, a scout is loyal, a scout is helpful, a scout is friendly. We went through these. A scout is courteous, a scout is kind, a scout is obedient, a scout is cheerful, a scout is thrifty, a scout is brave, a scout is clean, a scout is reverent. Now, I understand there was a lawsuit. So why did we go through all that? So you take a look how much good was there. And look what the cultural Marxists try to do. They try to distort it. Now, they also had a lawsuit and internal problems, so we're not going to ignore that. But Marxists do wish to destroy it. It was attacked and attacked and attacked. And I talked to a guy in Orange County who said they just constantly attacked them. By the way, when they compromised in England, they went for more and they kept going. So can't really compromise. It's not a good idea. Whomever these factions are, progressive, leftist, Marxist, they don't like the single-sex organizations like sororities and like Boy Scouts. And look at all the good that they were teaching. How many millions of boys did they turn into men? How many boys did they turn into leaders and give those leadership skills? How many boys did they get accustomed to a meritocracy where you had to earn things, where you had to study, learn, and take action? Because, right, you read it in a book, but you got to go start that campfire. You got to go throw that tent up. You got to put the tarp up in the rain. You got to start the fire in the rain with no matches. Right? These are activities. You got to do 5 miles of backpacking to get the backpacking badge, right? So I had a different experience than the boys that were doing the suit. Mine was fantastic. So good lessons, a sense of accomplishment, earning your rank, being elected to your position, sitting around the campfire after long hikes and having the camaraderie with other boys, developing leadership, thinking about others, not just yourself, thinking about those virtues of courage, loyalty, friendship, earning each rank. It's not given to you, you got to earn it. So you're participating in meritocracy. You either do it or you don't. That's great for a man to learn early. Achievement, sense of accomplishment. If you did the work, you moved up in rank. If you didn't do it, you didn't. We took action. You get out in the woods, you get away from your mom, you get away from your parents, you get away from everything you know, way out in the wilderness, way out in the mountains for days, and that builds camaraderie. And you start campfires and you sit around and you tell stories around that campfire after a long backpacking trip or hike. Especially after a hike, because you at the base camp, right? You don't do it as much for backpacking if you're concerned about bears, but sometimes you don't. You have the big campfires at the camp. You just do a bigger fire. You do a small fire when you're backpacking. So here's to the 1911 handbook. Wonderful values and virtues they taught. And hats off to the men that stood for Boy Scouts, like the man I know in Orange County. He stood, he fought, he put money, time, and energy, so give it up to him. These men deserve a lot of credit that stood and put countless hours in standing for Boy Scouts. Hats off to these men. They wanted it to continue, and they wanted it to go on. Boys without fathers got to experience, or boys without uninvolved fathers got to experience just being around boys and watching concrete examples of how boys and men behave, and with tasks and chores and a purpose, right? You had a purpose. You set up that base camp. You do this, you do this, you do this. We assign the task as leaders. We assign the boys, you have to complete those tasks. Gathering wood in the rain, putting up the bear bag. All these tasks you had to do at camp develops leaders and develops boys into men. So here's the thing, Boy Scouts was a tremendous opportunity and experience for me, further developed leadership skills. It's also an opportunity for boys when you get away from your mom or your parents or whatever it is, and you're out there in the wilderness, in the mountains, with just surrounded by boys and men. You don't need to introduce girls into it. Now, they say they're going to keep it separate. We'll see if that happens. But the point is, it's the Boy Scouts, not the Scouts. And that's what made it so valuable, building that camaraderie with all boys. Thank you. If you like this message, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification button.